Today is Tuesday, December 20th, 2011, and this is Dos de Sueños After Dark. Today we have Chapter 7 of Past Sins by Penstroke, assisted by Batty Gloom. Careful maneuvering.
Dear revered Brother Nexus, High Prophet of the True Queen,
I write in regards to the assignment which you gave me several weeks past. As chosen prophet of Ponyville, I received your orders that we were to search the Everfree Forest for our queen, that she may have survived the Sun Tyrant's interference in our resurrection spell. And, as I reported to you just last week, our searches of the forest have proved fruitless. Those amongst us that are unicorns have not been able to find traces of our queen's magic anywhere in the forest. Even the traces that once remained at the ancient castle have now dissipated. Yet, this past evening, I believe I spotted our queen, or at least one who bears a striking resemblance to her. A filly who is currently in the care of Twilight Sparkle. Yes, the same Twilight Sparkle we are all so familiar with. I first saw her at an elementary school play, and then once again later in the evening when she shared a meal with Twilight Sparkle, the Tyrants, and a number of other local mares and fillies. Upon speaking with my own daughter, who has shared a class with the filly for a number of weeks, I've come to discover the filly was admitted as a new student to Ponyville Elementary School around the same time our spell was cast, near the beginning of spring. I've been unable to ascertain any further information due to an altercation I had with Twilight Sparkle, which has put us at odds. My daughter, who might have proved useful in this matter, has also made herself just as unwelcome around the Ponyville Library. I request your guidance in this matter, in how you wish for me to proceed, and patiently await your reply. For the Night Eternal, for Equestria's true queen, honored brother Regal Cut, prophet of Ponyville. The scroll, which had been hoof-delivered to the manor, lay across the desk in Spellnexus's study. The dark blue unicorn was standing near one of his windows, horn glowing as he held a glass of fine orange juice. He gently swished the glass, and its contents danced under the gentle motions. His turquoise eyes focused on the moon, which was a beautiful crescent shape in the sky. A filly, Nexus whispered to himself before sipping from the glass. A filly who attends school, who lives with Twilight Sparkle, who was seen in the presence of Princess Celestia, no less, who participated in a school play of all things. A filly. It is not what I would have expected. What are your plans? What are your schemes? Nexus asked, as if posing his questions to the moon itself. Do you act to keep your enemies close? Do you seek to find a weakness to exploit? Do you bide your time until you can overcome the elements of harmony and the ponies who wield them? Nexus drank from the glass again, draining every drop. The glow around his horn grew just a bit brighter as he took hold of a large, elegant pitcher on a nearby table. From the pitcher, he refilled his cup with more fruit juice, giving it a gentle swirl before setting the pitcher back down and turning from the window. Perhaps you are merely waiting for us, your children, to discover you. To prove ourselves capable and deserving of your grace, Nexus mused, crossing the room. Though I assume much taking Regal Cut at his word. This filly may resemble Nightmare Moon, but a resemblance is not enough. No doppelganger will do. In any case, this warrants further investigation, Nexus surmised as he neared his reading table. A book floated out from the shelves, gripped by Nexus's levitation magic. Yet the book the unicorn sought was tucked behind the other. A small, black book floated into view, crossing the room and setting itself down on the writing desk while the other book was slipped back onto the shelf. Nexus turned to open the book, seeing in it names etched out in his own hoof-writing. The only true record of the Children of Nightmare. The only record of all the ponies who had sworn strength, magic, and life to the return of Equestria's true queen. It was his duty alone to guard such precious information, for if such a list were to be found by Princess Celestia, all their hopes would be lost. The unicorn's turquoise eyes read across the names and the notes accompanying them. He would need agents, ponies that could travel into the small town of Ponyville and verify Regal Cut's reports. Ones he trusted, ones like Greygale, Nightwind, and Stonewall, who had all proven their loyalty to Nightmare Moon. Ponies who were not just honored brothers and sisters, but ponies among the exalted. Those who were just below him in the order. Him, the one and only revered brother of the Children of Nightmare. Other books began to make their way off the shelves, cradled by levitation magic as Nexus began checking information. Every move made by the Children of Nightmare had to be planned with such care, for his opponent in this high-stakes game of chess was none other than Celestia herself, a mare with 1,000 years of rule and wisdom behind her who had unearthed less thoroughly thought-out plans during the cult's infancy. He'd have to spread his agents like a fine powder, sprinkle them amongst ponies that the filly would be brought into contact with, ones to simply watch her, others to try and examine her more closely, and others still to simply ensure that all went smoothly.
Sir?
Nexus looked up from his work and saw proper etiquette had poked his nose into the study doorway. Yes?
There is another letter for you, sir.
Etiquette replied, holding up said scroll with his magic. It was bound shut with a purple ribbon and a silver full moon metal seal. Thank you, Etiquette. Nexus replied, taking the letter with his own magic.
Will you be needing anything else, sir?
No, not at the moment.
Very good, sir.
The butler pony said before removing himself from the room. Nexus carefully set down the many books he had been levitating, leaving them propped open on the floor so he could return to where he left off once the letter had been attended to. The scroll was bound with a purple ribbon and a silver seal. It was a sign that the letter was from a brother or sister. The full moon on the seal indicated it was of the utmost importance.
Dear revered brother Spell Nexus, High Prophet of the True Queen, this is a report on the comings and goings of the unicorns assigned to Celestia, and to understand the nature of the resurrection spell which we attempted to cast in the forest. I realize this report comes fairly soon after my last, and that you did not expect another from me for the next several days. There has been, however, a few developments I believe you would want to know about without delay. First, with the research team moved to the Royal Archives, their endeavors in understanding our spell are starting to make steady headway. They're beginning to decipher the arcane lines which we use to augment and focus the magic in the Everfree Forest clearing. While I will act as I have to try and stall their efforts, I can, at this point, only slow their progress. They will, in time, decipher the spell. Second, Celestia came to the research team this morning to check on the progress. They reported back to her exactly as I've reported to you, that their progress has now become steady and dependable. Bastion Yorsitz and Celestia then began to chat casually. The princess talked about the spring festival she attended yesterday evening with her sister in Ponyville. She spoke highly of the many performances, offering particular praise for a play put on by the town's elementary school. She, at this point, divulged to Bastion Yorsitz that her student, Twilight Sparkle, was now taking care of a young filly by the name of Nyx. The only description she offered was that the filly was a black-coated unicorn, and that the filly was a half-cousin. I would have dismissed this as idle chatter if Bastion Yorsitz hadn't made a very interesting comment. He divulged that he had grown up knowing Twilight's father, and had been the one to invite Twilight to take the entrance exam for Celestia's School for Gifted Unicorns. In his comments, Bastion admitted it was strange that Twilight had called Nyx a half-cousin. He revealed that, while Twilight's father had siblings, her mother is an only child. He further pointed out that Twilight's father and his siblings all share the same two parents, making it impossible for the unicorn to have any half-cousins. Celestia simply offered that Twilight must have misspoken when introducing Nyx, or that she had a misunderstanding of what a half-cousin was. Bastion accepted this answer, and soon their meeting was over. Again, I would have believed this nothing but idle chatter, yet, later in the day in the barracks, I overheard Celestia's private guards talking. The two Pegasi were discussing a princess's day, and, after eavesdropping for a time, I discovered that the princess made an unscheduled stop on her daily routine. She went to the Equestria Central Records office during what was supposed to be her lunch hour. From the ponies there, she requested the family records pertaining to Twilight Sparkle and her parents be delivered to her royal chambers this evening. I was unable to discover more since my shift had ended, and I dare not risk lingering around the castle after work. That is all I have to report at this time. I will continue my observation of the research team, and will alert you if I discover anything pressing. I will submit my next regular report at the scheduled time. For the Night Eternal, for Equestria's true queen, Exalted Sister, Nightwind.
Nexus licked his lips, his mouth having gone dry. The situation had become much more perilous. Celestia's gaze was now turned upon the same black-coated filly, her interest spurred by the blabbermouth Bastion Yorsitz. He would have to have been a childhood friend of Twilight's father. Taking up the orange juice glass, Nexus tilted the glass up to his mouth.
With a few swift gulps, he emptied the glass, shaking his head after he'd finished. The perfectly chilled juice was delicious, but when drunk quickly, it gave the unicorn a brain freeze. The momentary discomfort, however, helped Nexus's mind focus. There was now a need for both subtlety and haste to ascertain who the filly truly was before Celestia could act in a way that made such an investigation impossible. The books that had been left on the floor were carried back into the air by Nexus's magic as he drew out a feather pen and several pieces of parchment. Feverishly, he began to work, his eyes moving between the little black record book of the Children of Nightmare and the many other tomes that now encircled the unicorn. Nexus would not get any sleep that night. Twilight yawned, making no effort to control or stifle it as she walked down the path to Ponyville Elementary. The sun was still starting to rise from the horizon, the sunrise's tapestry of colors just starting to fade to consult the blue of midday. Normally, it would have taken an important research trip to make Twilight get out of bed this early. That was, however, before Nyx came into her life. Now, it was not an expedition to some far-off archaeological site or a rare celestial event that drew Twilight from her warm bed covers. It was a far simpler event that, to a certain filly, was nearly as important. A few days after the spring festival, Cheerilee announced that she wanted to try something new for the school. A Saturday where the students would set up educational exhibits and the school would host food and games, something Cheerilee was playfully calling Learn and Play Day. It was an event that had quickly grown, Ponyville schools for the older students joining in on the event as well. It was because the event had grown so quickly that Cheerilee had called on Twilight, Ponyville's #1 organizer, to help get everything in order. The Purple Unicorn had been working alongside the teacher for the past 2 weeks to plan the event, while the students researched for and built their educational exhibits. It had turned out to be quite a lot of work. It was worth it, though. Nyx was so excited about the event and her exhibit, and Twilight was more than willing to put in the hours necessary to ensure that Learn and Play Day went well. Approaching the schoolhouse, Twilight walked around the brightly painted building to the open field behind it. There, Cheerilee was working with a few other volunteers to get everything set up. "Good morning, everybody," Twilight greeted, trying to put on a smile only to yawn again. "Not much for mornings, Twilight?" Cheerilee asked as she walked over to meet the unicorn. "Not usually, no." "Well, thank you for coming out and giving everything one final check over before the big day. Every pony seems so excited. This little weekend may turn into a Ponyville tradition if it goes off right." "Well, let's get through today first, before we start planning for next year," Twilight said, opening her saddlebags and floating a checklist and pencil to the air. "Now, let's see. Are the exhibit tables set up?" Cheerilee nodded, pointing a hoof to the area behind the school. Several circular tables had been borrowed or rented from a number of ponies around Ponyville and covered in white tablecloths to form a veritable sea of tables. Each table had 2 little signs on it with numbers. 30 round tables with tablecloths and 60 numbered exhibit signs on yellow paper." "Perfect," Twilight replied, making a check on her list and starting to look around the area the pair were standing in. "What about the food?" "We're just about to finish setting up the tables for our little food court. Big Macintosh has brought a food cart in from Sweet Apple Acres. That just leaves Danver and the Cakes, who need to arrive and set up their food stalls." "Danver?" "His family owns and runs the carrot farm next to Sweet Apple Acres." "Oh," Twilight said, lifting a hoof to mask a giggle. "Let me guess. Danver is a type of carrot." "You'd be guessing right," Cheerilee replied with a chuckle of her own. "I'd say that the food and eating area is all taken care of," Twilight said, checking off the next item on the list. "That just leaves the afternoon activities. Still, I doubt we'll be able to check that one off the list just yet." "Why do you say that?" "Well, we put Rainbow Dash in charge of that. She's reliable, but she likes to procrastinate a little. I wouldn't be surprised if she was still back at home snoozing away the morning." "Boo!" A little startled by the sudden addition of a third voice in the conversation. It was only then that she noticed the sky-blue Pegasus hovering in the air over her head. Cheerilee had to cover her mouth to keep herself from laughing as Rainbow Dash looked at Twilight with a smug grin. "Back snoozing, huh?" Twilight laughed nervously, forcing a smile. "Rainbow Dash, I didn't expect you to be here this early." The Pegasus chuckled, landing next to Twilight and folding her wings. "Relax, Twilight. On any normal day, I would still be asleep, but this is just going to be so awesome!" Not only to clear the skies, but to make sure that all my cool sporting events were ready. What all do you have planned? Cheerilee asked. Oh, tons of stuff. I actually went and checked out a book with a whole bunch of killer ideas. It was one of the few times she came into the library without crashing.
Twilight mentioned, though Rainbow Dash ignored her and kept going.
We've got something for every pony. Got things for just the kids to do, things for kids to do with their parents, and things for the parents to do so the kids can cheer them on. We've got games for Pegasi, for Earth ponies, for unicorns, and games where you get to mix it all up. It's just gonna be so awesome!
Wow, that sounds like a lot, Twilight said, unable to hide how impressed she was.
Like a lot of fun, you mean?
Rainbow Dash corrected as she lifted a hoof, gently brushing it against her chest.
Yeah, I pretty much outdid myself. And since we got so many ponies to volunteer their time and things for free,
Cheerilee began as she reached under a nearby table and pulled out a box.
I actually was able to spend the last of the budget on some prizes for your events. You got prizes? Oh boy, nothing is better than having prizes!
Dash cheered, already digging through the prize box as she took stock of what Cheerilee had bought.
Cool! You got yo-yos in here.
Dash eventually said, pulling her head out of the box with one of said yo-yos. In a flash, the Pegasus had the yo-yo string around her hoof. Giving it a flick, she sent the little plastic disc down and up the string in a smooth motion. Another flick, and the yo-yo was in a simple sleeper trick, where the yo-yo stayed at the bottom of the string but continued to spin.
I used to be pretty good at this,
Dash bragged, flicking her hoof to bring the yo-yo out of the sleeper trick. Rainbow Dash gave the yo-yo a few more flicks to build speed, then quickly wrapped some of the string around her hooves, resulting in the yo-yo swinging back and forth inside a triangle of string.
This here is called the pendulum. That's great, Rainbow Dash, but shouldn't you leave the prizes for the ponies who actually win them? Sure, just one more trick. You heard of Around the World? Well, this is my super double loop around the sun trick.
With that, Dash gave the yo-yo a firm flick and jumped into the air as she used her wings to spin herself. Still, a few seconds after starting the trick, Dash flopped to the ground, Cheerilee and Twilight laughing out loud as Dash had managed to hog-tie her legs and wings with the yo-yo's string.
Oh wow, Rainbow Dash, that was really something.
Twilight deadpanned.
Yeah, laugh it up. Now are you going to stand there giggling or are you going to lend me a hoof?
The Learn and Play Day was in full swing the moment it opened to the public at 9 o'clock that morning. The students already arrived to set up their exhibits, each having done a project on something that interested them. There were exhibits about farming techniques, about history, about how the weather was made, and dozens of other topics where the students tried to show off their work. That was the Learn part of the Learn and Play Day. The students learned more about the subjects they wanted to know more about, and some of the parents and other ponies in the community had a chance to learn as well.
Isn't this so super duper fun, Fluttershy?
Pinkie Pie chirped, bouncing along between the student exhibits while Fluttershy walked calmly beside her.
I mean, I knew cotton candy was good, and I also knew how to make it. Still, I never knew how the little pieces of sugar turned into stringy sweet goodness. Yes, that was a really interesting display,
nodded Fluttershy.
Which one has been your favorite so far?
The Pink Mare asked excitedly. Fluttershy shrank slightly under Pinkie's undivided attention.
Well, I liked the one about how caterpillars became butterflies. I already knew about that, but the student did such a wonderful job explaining it. All the kids did a really good job,
Pinkie Pie agreed before her eyes lit up.
Oh, I wish I had an exhibit. I'd do one about parties. Parties? Parties aren't as easy as every pony thinks. There are a lot of rules I have to follow for my parties. The Pinkie Pie Party rules.
The pink pony said matter-of-factly.
Really?
Fluttershy said in disbelief.
I would have never imagined you actually had rules for your parties. Of course. How do you think they turn out so good? I have rules I can never, ever break. As long as any pony else doesn't break them, then the party's a guaranteed success. Like rule number 1, every party must have decorations. Or rule number 157, if the ratio of fillies and colts to mares and stallions is at least 2 to 1, there must be a piñata.
Fluttershy couldn't help but tilt her head to one side, confusion across her face.
Rule 157? How many rules are there? 376,
Pinkie said instantly.
Oh my. That's a lot of rules.
For a brief moment, Pinkie Pie's usually happy expression turned stone cold.
Hey, throwing parties is my special talent. And it's serious business to make them seriously fun.
Pinkie Pie's normal cheerful demeanor returned a moment later, the pink pony's eyes scanning the exhibits.
Oh, hey, there's Nyx's booth. We should go see what she did.
Pinkie Pie bounced ahead, forcing Fluttershy to break into a quick trot just to catch up. A group of stallions and mares were just stepping away from Nyx's booth when the pink earth pony and the yellow Pegasus came up.
Hi, Fluttershy.
Nyx said with a wide smile, one that withered a little as the filly turned to look at the, at times, overwhelming pink earth pony.
Hi, Pinkie Pie.
Hey there, Nyx.
Pinkie Pie chirped.
What super cool, amazing thing do you have to show us at your exhibit? Give us the whole rundown. If you don't mind, that is.
Fluttershy added, trying to curb Pinkie Pie's enthusiasm.
Of course not. It's...
Nyx stated before she coughed into her hoof to clear her throat.
I chose to make my exhibit about transfiguration magic.
Pinkie tilted her head, confused but still excited.
Transfigure what?
Transfiguration. It's magic that focuses on turning one thing into another.
The filly pointed to a number of pictures she had set up on the backdrop of her exhibit.
Transfiguration magic can be used to perform practically anything into anything else, like a stick into a fancy walking cane, or a stone into a hat, or even an apple into a horse-drawn carriage. Transfiguration magic is only limited by the skill and ability of the pony casting it. Skilled unicorns, such as Rarity, can use transfiguration to turn fabric into a dress, and Twilight Sparkle is able to transfigure 4 common mice into full-size horses.
Hey, I remember that,
Pinkie Pie said with a giggle.
They didn't exactly look like horses.
Nyx stammered a moment, trying to recover from Pinkie Pie's interruption.
And that leaves me to the next part of my exhibit, the limits of transfiguration magic. Transfiguration magic is always temporary. Everything transfigured will eventually turn back into normal. This is why anything that needs to be permanent is still hoof-made, like houses and clothing, since transfiguration magic only lasts for so long. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a need for construction workers, carpenters, or any other ponies that make things. And as a final part of my exhibit, I would like to provide a live demonstration of transfiguration magic.
Nyx pointed to the rock sitting on the table in the center of her exhibit. The black filly then shut her eyes, her horn in the rock beginning to glow. Eventually, with a small pop, the rock turned into a potted flower.
Ooh.
Pinkie Pie said, leaning in and sniffing the flower.
It even smells real.
Nyx smiled bashfully.
So, any questions?
No, none at all. That was very well done, Nyx. You should be...
Fluttershy began to praise, but only for Pinkie Pie to put her head between the Pegasus and the filly.
Ooh, I got a question. Have you tried changing anything bigger than a rock? Ooh, do you take requests?
Well, no.
Nyx stammered.
But I guess I could try. What did you have in mind?
Turn that glass into cotton candy.
The party pony said ecstatically.
No, wait. Turn that into a candy apple. No, wait. You should turn that stallion's bow tie into a squirty flower. Oh, no. I know what you should try to do.
Pinkie Pie was grinning ear to ear as she pointed a hoof at Fluttershy.
Turn her into a tree.
A tree?
Nyx asked, head lowering and ears flattening from both confusion and Pinkie Pie's manic behavior.
Yeah, turn Fluttershy into a tree. Well, why would you want me to be a tree?
Asked Fluttershy, looking incredulously at Pinkie Pie for her incredible suggestion.
Because this one time, on a train, I got to talking with Rainbow Dash and Twilight, and for some strange reason, Rainbow thought you were a tree, even though you obviously weren't. But then you said you'd like to be a tree.
Pinkie Pie answered Fluttershy before turning her excited blue eyes back to Nyx.
So, can you turn her into a tree?
I don't know.
Oh, come on, just give it a try. You never know unless you try.
Pinkie Pie encouraged.
But
Nyx tried to protest.
Come on, Fluttershy doesn't mind. Do you, Fluttershy?
The yellow Pegasus scratched the ground a little.
Well, you do seem really excited, so I guess I don't mind, but are you sure it's safe? We saw Twilight turn those mice into horses, and she wouldn't put your animal friends in danger. Well, I guess that's true,
Fluttershy admitted.
and I guess it would be kind of nice to see what it's like.
yay!
Pinkie Pie cheered, turning her energetic blue eyes back on Nyx.
So come on, let's see some of that unicorn magic.
Nyx took a step back, shying away.
Pinkie Pie, I don't know. I don't think Twilight.
Aw, come on, please. It'll be so totally fun.
Pinkie Pie pressured as she bounced up and down with excitement.
Pinkie Pie, maybe...
Fluttershy began, trying to tell her friend that she was being a little overbearing. The Pegasus, however, didn't get to finish her sentence as she felt magic wrapping around her. Nyx had shut her eyes and focused her magic into her horn, making an attempt at the transfiguration spell in the hopes of appeasing the energetic Pinkie Pie.
Boy, some of these booths are really cool.
Rainbow Dash said, she and Twilight trotting amongst them.
I mean, did you see what Scootaloo did? She actually explained how my sonic rain boom works. I didn't even really know how it worked, besides the fact that I was breaking the sound barrier. Yes, all of the students have done really...
Twilight began, only to be silenced as the ground shook and a loud noise cut through the air.
What was that?
Twilight asked, regaining her footing from what felt like a minor earthquake. When she got no answer, Twilight turned to look at Rainbow Dash, who was staring narrow-eyed in the opposite direction. Following the Pegasus's gaze, Twilight nearly choked on the air in her own lungs with what she saw. A young tree had appeared at the center of the exhibits. It was just barely as tall as the schoolhouse's roof, with a trunk about as wide as a metal bucket. It was a young weeping willow, its long, hanging branches and leaves draping down, hanging just above the ground, and falling across some of the nearby exhibits. The tree, however, was very unusual. Its bark was a bright yellow, and all of its leaves were a light, frilly pink.
Oh my gosh, you did it!
Pinkie Pie's voice burst out above the crowd, drawing Rainbow Dash and Twilight out of their stupor. The two quickly raced through the network of tables and shoved their way through the crowd to reach the tree. Pinkie Pie had climbed right up into the branches, hanging off one of the few branches thick enough to support her weight.
Pinkie Pie, where in the hay did this tree come from?
Rainbow asked, the Pegasus taking flight as she caught up to Pinkie Pie in the tree's crown.
It was amazing! Nyx did it with her magic. Nyx did?
Twilight said, the unicorn looking up and down the tree in disbelief before her eyes narrowed.
Wait, where is Nyx?
Twilight's question was answered with a whimper that emanated from beneath one of the exhibit tables. When Twilight lifted the tablecloth, she found Nyx shaking like a leaf. Her head was in her hooves, and a few tears were pulling at her eyes.
Nyx, what did you...
Twilight began, which only caused Nyx to break down.
Twilight, I'm sorry. I didn't want to, but Pinkie Pie kept asking, and Fluttershy said it was okay, and I'm sorry. I didn't want to do it.
Do what?
Twilight asked, still unsure of exactly what happened.
She turned Fluttershy into a tree!
Pinkie Pie cheered.
Wait. Hold on a second.
Dash began, pointing a hoof at the yellow and pink weeping willow.
This tree right here. This tree is Fluttershy? Well, duh. Of course it is. I told you that Nyx turned Fluttershy into a tree. Seriously, Rainbow Dash, I think you'd be happy. After all, you were the one that thought Fluttershy was a tree when you were on our way to Appaloosa. I did not. I was being sarcastic.
Pinkie Pie flopped her head to one side.
You're being sarcastic?
As Rainbow Dash tried to explain to Pinkie Pie why she had once called Fluttershy a tree, Twilight began to glance nervously around on the steadily growing crowd of ponies. They were all murmuring and whispering about Nyx. Nyx picked up on this, noticing some of the growing concern on Twilight's face and retreating further under the table.
I did something bad, didn't I?
No, Nyx, it's okay.
Twilight whispered, trying to reassure her.
Just, give me one moment.
At that, Twilight turned to look at the tree, taking a deep breath to steady herself. After the accident during her entrance exam to Celestia's School for Gifted Unicorns, when she had turned her own parents into potted plants, one of the first spells Twilight had been taught by the princess was a transfiguration reversal spell. Yes, transfiguration would wear off in time, but it was also important to be able to reverse transfiguration at a moment's notice. Closing her eyes, Twilight began to focus, and her horn started to shimmer as she called on her magic. The same glow began to engulf the tree, and Rainbow Dash grabbed Pinkie Pie out of the tree's crown before Twilight completed her reversal spell. The crowd watched in awe, the display even drawing Nyx out from beneath the exhibit table. Then, after a few tense moments, the tree imploded on itself, compressing into a single point. With a magical pop, Fluttershy reappeared, and dropped to the ground with a small thud.
Fluttershy, are you okay? Twilight asked, quickly rushing up to help her friend back to her hooves. The yellow Pegasus was shaky, but gave a nod. Yes, I'm fine. Twilight breathed a sigh of relief. Good. You were never in any real danger. Transfiguration magic is inherently temporary. Still, from what my parents told me, being turned into a plant can be disorienting. Ooh, what was it like? What was it like? Pinkie Pie asked, bouncing in excitement. It was... Fluttershy began, pausing a moment to collect her thoughts. Not only did Pinkie Pie, Twilight, and Rainbow Dash lean in to hear the answer, but any ponies nearby who had witnessed the feat of magic leaned in as well, eager to hear the first hoof account of what it was like to be a tree. Nice. Fluttershy finally concluded. A groan of disappointment echoed through the crowd, many ponies turning now to leave after the spectacle had ended. Hearing that being turned into a tree was nice wasn't exactly the kind of answer they'd been hoping for. Pinkie Pie was, as usual, unfazed. Ooh, now I want to be turned into something. A rosebush! No, a balloon! No! Turn me into a cake! Turn me into a... Would you look at that? It's almost lunchtime. Twilight interrupted, putting a hoof against Pinkie Pie's mouth while she forced a smile. Personally, I'm starved. Aren't you starved, Nix? Of course you are. You just turned some pony into a tree. That kind of thing must really work up an appetite. Why don't we go get something to eat? Not even waiting for an answer from the Black Filly, Twilight grabbed Nix with a levitation spell and galloped out of the crowd of ponies. But I wanted to be a cake, Pinkie Pie complained, her voice ringing with a twinge of disappointment. The pink pony then quickly perked up, eyes darting around as she scratched her neck. Dash took notice of her pink friend's sudden shift in the mood. What's wrong, Pinkie Pie? Itchy neck, she replied. Itchy neck? Wait, like twitchy tail? Dash asked. No, silly. Twitchy tail is when something's about to fall. Then what does itchy neck mean? Asked Fluttershy. Some pony is watching us, Pinkie Pie answered, eyes moving around the now dispersing crowd of ponies. Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy just got turned into a tree, Dash pointed out before waving her hooves at the crowd. Every pony is watching us. The pink earth pony shook her head violently from side to side. No. That was an innocent kind of, wow, that's a really cool thing that happened watching. No, itchy neck is a bad kind of watching. What the hey is a bad kind of watching? Rainbow Dash questioned. Spying, Pinkie Pie hissed quietly, and the spy is that way. Without another word, the pink pony was off, galloping away and leaving a very confused Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash. Dash shook her head in concern as she landed beside Fluttershy. She is too random sometimes. And that was Past Sins, Chapter 7 by Penstroke, assisted by Batty Gloom. Join me next week for Chapter 2 of My Little Avengers, and maybe even Chapter 3. This is Faust Sueños signing off. Safe travels, every pony.